Hello, this is Paul Beaver, founder of Amazonia Expeditions. I'm pleased to be able to present to you today a summary of some of the fruits from the Upper Amazon Basin. Now, the Upper Amazon Basin is an area of flat land around the headwaters of the Amazon River, where the Amazon is formed by the confluence of the rivers Ucayali and Marañón. There's one city in the area, the city of Iquitos, which is the world's largest city, not connected to any other city by road because it's surrounded by impenetrable forest. The reason this area is called the Upper Amazon Basin is that seasonally it collects the water from the Andes Mountains and floods. And so, in this sense, it's a basin. The Upper Amazon Basin is, in the Amazon, the region of greatest biodiversity of species of monkeys, of which we have 15, birds in the lowland forest. We've counted around our lodges 620 different species. And it's just a remarkable area, and also for native fruits. Now, the most popular fruit of the Upper Amazon Basin is known as Agui, species Mauritia flexuosa. It's a very common neotropical palm found throughout the neotropics, north of our region in Central America, Ecuador, and Colombia. It's known as the Morichi palm, but in the Iquitos region, Agui palm. Most popular among the people as well as the animals. It can be eaten raw or boiled. It takes patience to peel off the non-edible cask, little piece by little piece, to get at the delicious fruit underneath. Can also make a juice, jam, and is very popular flavoring ice cream. It's considered an ecological keystone species because it feeds as well so many animals, many species of birds, especially the parrots and toucans, monkeys, and when the Agui falls onto the ground, also feeds ground-dwelling animals like tapir, peccary, agouti, pacarana, and others. Another species of palm fruit is known as Assai. We have a lot of different species of palm fruits. Palms in the Amazon are very useful to the native people, not only because some species bear fruits, other species, they can be cut open for the heart of palm, a spaghetti-like staple. Palms can be also used for making homes, floorboards in homes, other species, the roofing material, and chambera palm even making string. So in the Upper Amazon Basin, we have 476 different species of palms. Worldwide, palms grow in not only the tropics, but the subtropical zones. There's some 2,600 different species. The very first palm evolved about 80 million years ago in the Western Amazon, in swamps there. And when the asteroid apocalypse happened 66 million years ago, which superheated the environment and caused worldwide forest fires, only the species of trees that had the hardiest seeds or that had seeds falling into swamps or very moist soil were able to survive. And from this one species of palm evolved some 60 million years ago up to the present day, over 2,000 different species. Now, the acai has quite a reputation here. It produces small berry-like fruits, which are used for juice. And it has been cultivated in Brazil and marketed in a very deceptive way as a superfood, able to cure cancer, lose weight, whatever. These things, of course, are not true. The most delicious, in my opinion, of our native fruits in the upper Amazon basin is the Anona, or sugar apple. Now, sugar apples are also very common in tropical regions, 169 different known species. In the neotropics, a species known as Rolania mucosa is cultivated and can be bought in stores throughout North America and South America. It's a lot smaller than this wild species, Rolania peruviana, growing wild in the upper Amazon basin. This species is about the size of a Pop Warner football. It has the most delicious texture and taste, I think, of any of our fruits. Here we have a huito fruit. This is edible, but it's more famous for other reasons. The genipic acid that the unripe fruit of huito produces can be used as a temporary tattoo. It's a very deep purplish color and has been popular among the native people of the Amazon for some centuries. It became very popular for temporary tattoo artists starting about 40 years ago and birthed a new commerce in temporary tattoos. Here we have a rasa, origin in the Peruvian Amazon, the upper Amazon basin. It's very refreshing. Can be eaten or is enjoyed as a juice or marmalade, also flavoring ice cream. It grows on a small tree, less than 10 feet tall. It grows in the shade of larger trees in the forest and fruits throughout the year. There are cultivars in Ecuador and Brazil, but we also have our wild species in Peru. Here we have ubo, which is known popularly as hog plum. Very delicious, can be eaten or made into a juice, jelly, or sherbet. Copoazu. One can eat this raw, but the natives mostly use it as a flavoring, like butter on bread or rolls, to enhance the flavor. Chemically, Copoazu has a number of different flavorins. These are phytochemicals, which produce different tastes. It has perhaps the most flavorins of any fruit in the world. It also has caffeine and can be used as a confectionery to make candy as well. Kamukamu is one of my personal favorites. These berries are extremely high in vitamin C. Each ripe berry has over 2,000 milligrams of vitamin C. That's about 3% of the berry's weight. The largest concentration of vitamin C in any fruit. It's become quite a sensation in Japan. It's not cultivated because to come into fruit, it needs to be in at least 3 feet, at least a meter, up to 2 or 3 meters of water. So it comes into fruit during the season when the Amazon is flooded. The Amazon basin is flooded and is then harvested. And throughout the Amazon, in the upper Amazon basin, It's much of it is exported now to Japan, where it's very, very popular. Cacao, the chocolate fruit, also evolved in the upper Amazon basin. And it has a history. The native people would eat not the beans, not the black beans of the cacao seed pod, but rather the silky white fibers that surround the beans. During pre-Columbian time, people of the Amazon region traded, and this became very popular among the Mayan people in Central America. But the Mayan people also would take the black seeds, grind them up, and make a very bitter chocolate drink. When Europeans first came, they brought some back to Europe, added a little bit of sugar to the chocolate drink, and the chocolate industry was born. Now, attempts to cultivate the cacao in South America failed, because what would happen is that a farm of cacao trees would also attract an insect predator, a weevil, which bores into the pod, laying its eggs, and its larva then destroying the seeds. However, it was found that if you exported the seeds to Africa, where there were no weevil predators, then it grew very well. And of course, this has gotten to be a problem in Africa with child labor and abuse of child labor, harvesting most of the world's seeds used to make chocolate. Now, another species here, Mambo, cultivars is also widely cultivated. The cultivars, though, are only about 10 to 20 feet. In the wild, in the Amazon, we have up to 100 feet tall. Much like the cacao, it has black seeds, which are inedible in the center, but surrounded by these white silk-like fibers, which can be eaten. Like chocolate, though, we can crush the seeds and grind them up and make a beverage. Cashew. These have also become cultivated in many tropic and subtropic areas of the world. The cashew apple is edible, and it produces a drupe at the end, which contains the familiar cashew nut. Wild cashew trees in the Amazon grow up to 50 feet tall, but the cultivars, which again, unsuccessful to cultivate them in the Amazon because of their natural predators, natural insect predators, they're cultivated mostly in India. The cultivars only grow up to 10 to 15 feet, so they're like a dwarf cashew. And again, we also have the problem with child labor, abusive child labor, harvesting the world's cashews as well. Kaimito is a very sweet fruit. It's related to carambolas or star fruit, very popular in the region, small fruit. And here we have Kakona. Kakonas are, they grow on a small herb, a small plant, rarely getting more than 3 feet off the ground. And they're very tomato-like. Of course, tomatoes are actually fruits. And when you cut them open, they look like a tomato, but much sweeter, much more tasty. When they come into season in our area, we'll add them to salads at our lodge, and people actually think that they're eating these very delicious yellow tomatoes in their salads. The Inga genus produces some really interesting pods. These are not fruits, they're actually legumes. We have two different kinds that grow in the upper Amazon basin. A kind of a short, fat one, about 2 feet long, known as Shimbillo, and another longer one, known as Guava, which can reach over 4 feet long and skinny. Each has very large black seeds, which are not edible, but a very delicious white covering to the seeds, which has a consistency somewhat like ice cream. So these are known popularly as ice cream beans. We know when they come into fruit in the jungle because a tree, or not into fruit, but in ripeness, a tree that has ripe ice cream beans will be filled with monkeys, which also enjoy this species. Guava or guayaba, these also have cultivars worldwide, but the greatest genetic diversity is in the region of evolutionary origin, which is in the upper Amazon basin. These can be eaten as fruits, but are best known to make jelly. It's very important to have regions where the wild fruits that have originally evolved still exist, because that's where we find the greatest genetic diversity. And that's very important to protect cultivated species against disease. In areas where we don't have the wild fruits existing anymore, like bananas or oranges, we see the problems with diseases attacking cultivated plants, which have very low genetic diversity. Leche Huayo or Leche Caspi in Peru, Leche Huayo in Brazil. The fruits are very delicious. Monkeys like them a lot. Commercially, this species is actually known for its sap, which produces latex sap, which is commercially valuable, but the fruits are also edible as well. Sacha inchi. Now, these look somewhat like a star fruit, but the green fruits are actually very poisonous. When they get ripe, the they get brown, also very poisonous, and their seeds are very poisonous. However, if we take the ripe seeds out and roast them under high temperature, they become delicious and they're not poisonous. This roasting neutralizes the poisonous alkaloids in the plant. So I always wonder about species like this, like how in the maybe 20,000 years that the Amazon has been inhabited, the native people actually learn so much about how to take a species that seems to be poisonous in every aspect and yet find a way to make it non-poisonous. Sapote of the Amazon forest. Now, this is a different species, in fact, a different genus altogether from the popularly known Sapote cultivars, which are of the genus Poteria. In this genus, the species has not been subject to cultivation. It grows wild throughout the upper Amazon basin. But throughout the upper Amazon basin, it really varies in taste and texture. In some areas, when you cut it open, the entire interior is a very fibrous mass, much like the fibrous mass inside of a pumpkin. In our region, this fibrous mass is surrounded by fruit, enough fruit that makes it deliciously edible. Sacha mango, or false mango, has thin skin and underneath a very rubbery and yellow meat. It's kind of a similar hardness to it, like coconut. There's several different species of the Grias genus, some of which are cultivated in Ecuador and Colombia. The species, wild species found in our forests, near our lodges, Grias peruviana, is not a cultivated species. Okay, here we have a passion fruit, Pasiflora. There's over 600 different species of Pasiflora worldwide. We know in North America, this species of Pasiflora called Maracuya, which is a cultivar grown throughout the neotropics. But in the Amazon, we have a much different species. Looks like this. We call tumbo. Like the more familiar maracuya, it's an orangey type fruit used to make a delicious juice. In our region, though, the natives also like to eat raw. It's got a lot of seeds, but like watermelon, just spit out the seeds as you eat them. Uvilla, or Amazon tree grapes, are very delicious. Problem is they're not often eaten because they grow on trees about 100 feet tall. And these trees are protected by a species of ant, very vicious ants. The tree lives in a symbiotic relationship with these ants, providing a very soft bark that the ants can burrow into. And these ants will protect the fruits and protect the tree, rather, and the leaves of the tree from sloths that might get up in the tree. As you can see, the tree is very sparsely foliated with leaves. So it needs some protection against species which would eat the leaves. Now, the species name looks a little bit like Cecropia. This is because the leaves resemble almost exactly the leaves of the Cecropia tree, but it's not at all related. It's an entirely different genus, an entirely different family from Cecropia trees. Umari, known by the natives as jungle butter, not cultivated, they eat wild. And not cultivated because these trees need to reach a height of about 50 feet tall before bearing any fruit. They continue growing to over 100 feet tall. Like Copoazu, Umari is used as a kind of a buttery flavoring. It's not as flavorful as Copoazu, but it's a much more common plant and is in fruit year-round, so is more commonly used. Pefuayo. This is another palm fruit, also known as a peach palm. This has a very wide native distribution throughout Peru and going as far north as Ecuador and going as far south as Bolivia and even northern Chile in the forests. It's very important in the people's diet because it's rich in calories. It's not very flavorful. It's like a potato. So like in Peru, in the Andes region, a staple would be potatoes, of which there's dozens of different species in the Andes. And then down into the jungle, the staples are pefuayo, palm fruits, and also another tuber fruit, like the potato, which is manioc. Here we have pineapple, originally evolved in the upper Amazon basin. Walking through the forest, you see pineapples growing in very dense shade, and they're scattered widely. You may come across one pineapple and have to walk a half a mile before you come across another one. I was so surprised the first time I went to a pineapple plantation in Costa Rica and saw pineapples growing in the bright sunlight, thousands of them all together. So like we have with other cultivated fruits, having a wild population and all that genetic diversity is an important buttress for cultivated species against diseases. The Urina palm fruit is one of my favorites. When I was leading expeditions, camping expeditions in the 80s and early 90s in the Amazon, I'd love to come across the Urina palm, which is an understory palm, because you can pick the fruits which are no more than 4 to 6 feet above the forest floor. And if you picked one of these, which was very young in its stage of maturation, it would be filled with water, a very delicious tasting coconut tasting water. And of course, you're always looking for sources of fresh water when you're camping in the Amazon. If it was a little bit more mature, rather than water, these white areas would be filled with a coconut flavored fruit. But if you came across a fully mature fruit, it would be hard as a rock. And we'd be so disappointed if that's the stage we came across, because to us, camping in the forest would be worthless. However, it's in that very rock-like stage, which is known as jungle ivory, that for a while it was very commercially valuable, 100 to 150 years ago, grown in Colombia and Ecuador. And this hard jungle ivory, also known as a tagua nut, would be shipped to the United States, where they would make buttons for expensive clothes for gentlemen. Umari is best known because its seeds have been taken from the Western Amazon and planted throughout Indonesia, where it's commercially valuable for palm oil. But in our region of the Amazon, we don't use it. The natives don't use it for palm oil. They use it instead, they eat it, and they call it jungle chocolate. So that finishes my presentation of fruits in the upper Amazon basin, enjoyed by people, enjoyed by birds, and certainly enjoyed by our various species of monkeys as well. Thank you for tuning in.